Rami-X, again with Chapter 2 of Naruto Legacy. I was kind of doing an experiment with Chapter 1. Tell me if you guys want me to do it 2 chapters apart or 1 chapter apart. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I might just do it 1 chapter apart. I really am left here to decide, with my thoughts contained, as they may be. With that being said, I do not own Naruto or its characters, nor this story's characters, creations, and everything, or all of the above, to be exact. I am just here to bring you this story in an audiobook-like matter, or manner, for the sake of it. We can now begin. Chapter 2, Birth of a Legend. "Hello, Sochi," said Kushina. This is previously, of course. Minato turned to his son and said, "Welcome to our family, Naruto. Current time, blank. Undisclosed location, outside of Konoha. Rest, Kushina. You will have plenty of time," said Biwako as she picked up Naruto for his first bath. Biwako is a woman with 170 centimeters long brown hair trapped in a ponytail with brown eyes. She was around 50 years old and is the wife of Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sand Dame Hokage, the previous leader of Naha. "How are you feeling, Kushina?" asked Minato, concerned with his loving wife. "Just tired," she replied. "Thank you," he said, when suddenly a voice unknown to both Minato and Kushina echoed through the room. "Step away from the Jinchuriki, Yondaime," the masked man said as he held Naruto hostage with a kunai at his neck. Biwako and the nurse lay dead in the floor. "Step away from the Jinchuriki." "Okay, just calm down," said Minato, frightened, concern evident in his eyes. "Speak for yourself, Yondaime. I am perfectly calm," masked man said as he threw Naruto in the air, preparing to stab him with the kunai. Suddenly, in a yellow flash, Minato grabbed Naruto as the masked man made his way towards Kushina. Buzzing was heard as Minato realized 5 explosion tags were placed in the blanket around Naruto. In a burst of speed, Minato removed the blanket and teleported to his safe house. Minato's safe house, outside of Konoha. An explosion occurred as Minato was blasted away with his son in his arms. "That man is no ordinary shinobi," said Minato, wondering just who the masked man is. "He managed to separate me from Kushina." Teleporting to the Namikaze compound, Minato places his son on the bed, whispering, "Rest now, Naruto. I am going to save your mother. I will be back." Undisclosed location, outside of Konoha. The masked man approached Kushina and warped away to outside the house. Placing his head on her stomach, he begins extracting the kyubi. It says head, but I believe he means, the author that is, hand. In a couple of minutes, a figure is seen erupting from her stomach and materializing in the air. There stood the 9-tailed demon fox in all its glory, with 9 tails swinging. With a glimpse, the masked man traps the kyubi under its control. The once red slitted eyes of the kyubi are now red with 3 black tomoes, the Sharingan glowing in all of its power. "Wait," said a weak Kushina, realizing what was about to happen. "Incredible. The Uzumaki clan is simply incredible. Not even extracting a tailed beast from you is enough to kill you," said the masked man as he commanded the kyubi to kill his former Jinchuriki. "It's only fitting that the kyubi kills its container," he said. As the kyubi is about to crush Kushina, a yellow flash is seen. Standing in a tree not far away, we see Minato with Kushina in his arms, bridal style. He really lives up to his name. "Minato Namikaze, Konoha's yellow flash," he says, warping to the edge of the village. Minato flashed to the Namikaze compound, laying Kushina near her son as she embraces him. "Kushina, I'm going to stop the kyubi. Take care of him," he said, and in a yellow flash, he was gone. North entrance of Konoha. It was a warm, calm summer night in the hidden village of the leaves. Lights were seen all around the village as people followed their lives, unaware about what was about to happen. Kuchiyos no Jutsu, summoning jutsu. the masked man said, slapping his palm on the ground. And, with a burst of smoke, there it stood, the QB, ready to unleash its fury upon the unsuspecting village. Suddenly a roar is heard as the QB starts its destruction. Swinging its tail and using its paws, nothing stood in his way. Sandame, the QB, has appeared in the north part of the village, said an Ombu, as he bowed to the Sandame Hokage. Yes, I heard it summon the forces and evacuate the civilians. We must push the QB out of the village and wait for the fourth, said the Sandame. Minato Namikaze is seen standing on the top of the Hokage monument, ready to go face the QB when he senses a presence behind him. Quickly ducking and turning around, he swings a kunai, only to phase through the head of his enemy. Suddenly, everything begins to become distorted as the masked man starts to absorb Minato into a ripple-like pattern. Also, side note, sorry to distract you from the real story, but many times throughout this, the author does have many mistakes, so in turn, I may also have mistakes, though sometimes I do edit it out. Most of the time I do. Before it finished, Minato would disappear. He then flashed away to his safe house. After Minato escaped the masked man. That technique, Minato said, pondering what he just experienced. It's a time-space technique more advanced than my own. It happens. It doesn't require seals, or I would have seen them on my Sharingan. It is best if I hide my Sharingan under a Genjutsu. I don't know who he is, but his chakra signature seems familiar. Suddenly, a figure starts to appear, just a few meters away from Minato. There it stood, the masked man, preparing to face the legendary Kiroi Senko, or Yellow Flash in English. The men stared at each other. One daring to make the first move. Who are you? Asked Minato as he wondered who could possibly have the power to not only unleash, but also control the QB. My name is long forgotten and despised in the history of this village. I was once known as Madara Uchiha, but you can call me Toby, he replied, chuckling at the irony of asking a masked man who he is. No, I know now for a fact that you are not Madara Uchiha. Although your chakra seems familiar, you are not him, Minato said, trying to find out the masked man's identity. The masked man simply stood there, wondering how in the world could the Yondaime know that he isn't Madara. Something here isn't right. How can he know Madara's chakra signature, Toby thought. Both warriors dashed at each other. In a battle for speed, the fastest would win. Minato simply threw his Hirashin, or in English, Flying Thunder God technique, kunai, at Toby as it phased through his head. Getting closer to each other, preparing for the face-off, Minato charges the Rasengan in his right hand, preparing to slam it into Toby. Toby is about to touch Minato, preparing to absorb him. Victory is mine, he says, and suddenly Minato disappears from his sight, only to appear behind his back, using the kunai he previously threw. Minato twists his body, slamming the Rasengan into Toby, vaporizing the area and marking Toby with Hirashin's seal. I underestimated him, Toby says, when suddenly Minato appears in front of him, stabbing him with a kunai and applying a contract remove seal to free the QB. Toby, seeing that he lost this battle, says, and I quote, I will be back, and I will get my revenge on the Leaf Village, end quote, as he warps away. Something tells me he wasn't joking, and he's an Uchiha with a chakra signature similar to my father's. I wonder who he is, thought Minato, as he got up, getting ready. E to stop the QB, flashing to the battlefield. Battlefield, Konoha, northern part of the village. In the battlefield stood the Sandame, leading the forces, trying his best to push the QB away from the village, when suddenly he hears Kuchiyos no Jutsu, Minato says as he drops on top with the QB. He would, have his summoning the Toad Boss, pinning the QB into the ground. Try and hold him down as long as you can. Sorry if that sounded weird, I guess it was another author's error. Teleporting, Something this big requires preparation, he says to the Toad boss as Minato prepares to teleport the QB away from the village. Are you crazy? I am not a miracle warrior. Hurry, Gamabunta says. Suddenly, both Minato and the QB disappear near the safe house. Arriving near the safe house. Now, with that being said, the QB was starting to take its toll on Minato. What do I mean by that? Well, Minato had just transported the QB, and it took a massive amount of chakra away from Minato, as he had just pulled to teleport the QB. Yon dame, quick, you must seal me. I can't still feel that damn Uchiha pushing me. I refuse to be controlled, says the QB, much to Minato's surprise. He wants me to seal him, thought Minato as he teleported to the safe house, picking up Kushina and Naruto for the ritual. Kushina, I needed your help to restrain him. He's still being pushed, he says, as Kushina gathers the remains of her chakra to form chains to snare the QB to the ground. Minato starts performing a long chain of seals, and at the end he shouts, Shiki Fujin, dead demon-consuming seal in English. Yon dame, get out of the way, the QB shouts as it feels itself being driven to kill his next vessel. However, both Minato and Kushina jump in front of his claw, protecting their friends. You don't need that many, only a few, as long as they are true friends. Also, no drinking until you are 20. So there was a little bit of an error in the translation. Sorry, this is future Rami. Basically, we have just now segued into Kushina talking about what she wants for Naruto in the future. Anyhow, I shall now continue. No drinking until you're 20, and stay away from Jiraiya. I'm sorry, Minato. I took your time. Don't worry. QB, can you look out for my son? I know he will have a hard life, he asks. It would be my honor. I will take care of your kid. The QB replies, wondering just how the hell this night could have happened. Damn, Minato thought. I need to make sure he knows of my father's legacies. I can't let him go to the Uchihas, not with the QB in him, but I never told anyone and it's too late now. Minato starts thinking, when suddenly an idea struck his head. Maybe this will work. Suddenly, Minato gathers what's left of his chakra, pushing it to his eyes as they start spinning, and says, with the last of his strength, he whispers, 8 trigram seal. In every shinobi village, there was a reminder of their previous leaders and heroes to honor their memory and sacrifice that they did to protect and defend their homes. In Konoha, there is a certain mountain that shows, well, exactly that. The mountain was actually called the Hokage, leader of the Leaf Village Mountain, and in it were carved the previous and current Hokages of the Leaf, and there it stood, the faces of the legendary shinobi, Senju Hashirama, Shodame Hokage, leader of the Senju clan, one of the founders of the Leaf Village, and the first user of the Mokuton element. He was a caring and kind person, dedicated to serve his village. However, he ended up dying during the First Shinobi War. His fight against Uchiha Madara had taken its toll and left him permanently weakened. He was at the time of his death a shell of his former self, but even now, about 80 years after his death, he is still remembered by everyone in the village. The second face belonged to Senju Hoshirama, or Tobirama, Nide Hokage. He was Hashirama's younger brother, and became Hokage after his brother's death. He too was a very strong shinobi. In fact, each of the Hokage was hailed as the strongest shinobi of their time. Tobirama was known for his extremely high water affinity that allowed him to use high-rank moves in places without water by condensing the air around him. He too lost his life fighting in the Second Shinobi War. But before his death, he appointed Hiruzen Sarutobi, one of the students, as Sandaime Hokage. The third face on the monument was Sarutobi Hiruzen of the Sarutobi clan. Known for their monkey summoning and extreme skill in taijutsu, hand-to-hand combat, Hiruzen is currently around 55 years old. He's one of the most powerful shinobi in the village, but in his prime he was hailed as Shinobi no Kami, or in other words, God of Shinobi, mostly because of his skill in ninjutsu that allowed him to combine different elements to his attacks. Hiruzen is the current leader of the Leaf Village. After his successor, the Yondaime Hokage, died, the last face of the monument was Minato Namikaze. The Yondaime Hokage hailed as the strongest of the Hokages. He was also the fastest shinobi to ever live in the elemental nations. Not even the Raikages with lightning armor could compete with him in speed. He was known for his use of the Hirashin no Jutsu, or in other words, Flying Thunder God technique, a Yasurin technique of his creation that allowed him to move at almost the speed of light. This technique was the reason that he was known as the Yellow Flash, due to his blonde hair. The only thing that people managed to see was a yellow flash due to his speed. In the Leaf Village, he was a hero that sacrificed his life to kill the Kyuubi, no Yoko, that attacked the village 5 years ago. And here, 5 years later after the Kyuubi attack, is where our story truly begins. With a small boy that, despite being mistreated his whole life, will rise to become the legend he was born to be. Konoha, 5 years after Kyuubi's attack, October 10th. It was a warm night in the Leaf Village. The sun was just going down. It was starting to dim. A town's lights were, coming up. And we still could see many people going around the village doing their business. Unlike many other villagers, and villages as well. Even though Konoha was the most powerful village in the elemental nations, it didn't seem, militaristic or cold. Many people, if they saw Konoha, would say that it really wasn't a shinobi village. However, the mountain that surrounded the northern part of the village was a dead giveaway. In it were the carved faces of the most powerful shinobi to ever live. It was October 10th. The village was covered in decorations and celebrating the defeat of the Kyuubi that attacked 5 years ago. Everyone in the village was happy. It were times of peace. The wars were long forgotten, but not the hate and the pain of the many that were lost. Although everyone seemed happy, one particular kid was very sad and very lonely. Uzumaki Naruto was an orphan of the Kyuubi attack. He was about 120 centimeters, or 3'11" for people who do not use that metric. He had spiky blonde hair, the bluest eyes anyone had ever seen, and in each cheek he had 3 whisker marks, a birthmark. He was wearing a white shirt with short sleeves and an orange swirl in his back, as well as black pants. Despite being what appeared to be a normal child, Naruto was hated and despised by most of the village. He was a painful reminder of the Kyuubi attack. He was expelled from the orphanage at the age of 4 and lived in the streets for about a month. That was until the Hokage's Anbu found him and took him to the Sandaime. Sandaime eventually became a grandfather figure to him. If you don't know who Sandaime is, this is just the 3rd Hokage, or Hiruzen Sarutobi. He gave Naruto a small apartment and allowance to live, but Naruto was constantly pursued by the villagers and constantly abused and beaten. The stores kicked him out, or sold him rotten merchandise, or charged twice the price. Even in the orphanage, he still received the same treatment. Growing up in this kind of life forced Naruto to mature very quickly if he wanted to survive. Because of this treatment, Naruto became a highly intelligent kid that could rival a Nara. He became cold and calculative to everyone except his closest people, that in his case were simply the Hokage himself and the owners of a simple ramen stand. Only 3 people cared for Naruto and wondered if he was eating or sleeping well. During his birthday, things were even worse because the villagers and a few shinobi would gather up and hunt him down like an animal. And here is where we are. A scared kid was running through the streets of Konoha, trying his best to avoid the villagers and shinobi in hot pursuit. The villagers were shouting, "Die, demon! Get him! Finish what the Yondaime started!" Naruto wondered, what did he ever do to deserve such treatment and harsh life? "Stop, please. What did I ever do to you?" asked Naruto, running as fast as he could. His legs started to give away. "Oh, please. You know very well what you did. You killed my brother and my father," shouted one of the villagers as he threw an empty bottle. "We will finish what the Yondaime started and kill the demon," the villager said as the others supported him. Naruto kept running until he looked behind his pursuers and noticed that a couple of them appeared to be Chunin / medium level shinobi. Naruto was a stamina freak. A 5-year-old couldn't compete with the speed of a Chunin, even though he was a stamina freak. With that being said, the Chunin quickly closed the distance between him and Naruto. He took out a kunai and did a horizontal slash. Naruto, seeing the kunai that would most likely kill him, he ducked. And he was ducking, or rather I should say, while he was ducking, he noticed that time appeared to be slowing down. After dodging the slash, he unwillingly channeled chakra to his legs, trying to jump over a fence to get away. The rest of his, tailors / shinobi chasing him, seeing this, were actually surprised, but they couldn't let the demon get away. So all of them threw a couple of kunai at him, while saying, "Kunai kage, shuriken no jutsu." The kunai multiplied to 15 and were going fast at Naruto. Naruto, knowing that he couldn't dodge them all in midair, started observing them and calculating the best way to avoid them. It was then that it happened. His vision suddenly became clearer, and the incoming kunai seemed to almost stop. Just by looking at them, he could see where they would land. Reacting to his instincts, Naruto quickly caught one with his hand and started deflecting all of them, except one that managed to pass his defenses and hit his shoulder. He cried out in pain, but managed to get over the fence into safety. He pulled the kunai out of his shoulder and noticed that the wound was already closing. "I wonder why I'm the only person to heal this fast," he asked himself, while walking through the village, hidden in the shadows to avoid the villagers. He quickly noticed that his vision was different. It was black and white, and he could see people with a blue flame inside of them that surrounded their body. He tried to push his eyes to see better, and suddenly he passed out in the alleyway. The streets and exhaustion of running, taking a kunai to his shoulder, was too much. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto awoke in what it seemed to be a sewer. There were pipes in every wall, and the floor was filled with water with about 20 centimeters height, or 8 inches. He wandered, I should say, the endless corridors, wondering where he was when he heard a soft male voice calling him. "Follow my voice," the strange voice said. Naruto didn't know him, but was drawn to this voice anyway. After walking for a couple of minutes, Naruto found himself staring at a big iron door with vertical bars. The middle of the door was a small paper with the kanji for seal. He looked inside the cage, but it seemed empty. "Hello there, Naruto," said the voice. Naruto jumped back, surprised, and noticed a man leaning in the sewer wall outside of the cage. Naruto observed the man carefully. The man was about 190 centimeters in height, 6'2". He had spiky blonde hair with 2 bangs that framed his face, and blue eyes. He was wearing a full-body blue suit and the standard Jonin high-level shinobi flat jacket. He was also wearing a white cape with red flames, and it had the kanji for Yondaime Hokage, or the 4th Hokage, in other words. Yondaime Hokage?" asked Naruto. He knew very well what happened 5 years ago. He knew that the Yondaime died to kill the Kyuubi, as did most villagers in the village. He was considered a hero. How? You were supposed to be dead. Am I dead too? Naruto asked. No, you are not dead, but unfortunately I am, Minato replied. But if you are dead, then where am I? And how do you know my name? Naruto wondered. What the hell was going on? Naruto, I'm going to explain everything to you. Listen closely, okay? He asked, to which Naruto nodded. We we are inside your mind. This is your mindscape. It's basically a representation of your mind in physical form. Understand? Naruto nodded. Now the truth is that I am your father. Naruto froze when he heard that. No, it can't be. Gigi told me he didn't know who my parents were, Naruto thought. Gigi being the third Hokage. It, it, you're my father? How? Naruto asked. Well, about the how, you will find out when you're older, Minato said, chuckling. But it is true. I am your father, and I'm sorry I wasn't here with you. But I had to stop the Kyuubi. But listen, I don't have much time. You probably wondered why this village treats you like a monster, to which Naruto slowly nodded. Well, there isn't any easy way to say this, but 5 years ago when you were born, the Kyuubi attacked the village, as you know. Sandame said that I killed the Kyuubi, but that is impossible. The Kyuubi is a mass of chakra without actually a physical body, so it can't actually die. The only way I had to stop the Kyuubi was to seal it inside a newborn baby. I'm sorry to say, but I had to seal it within you, he said with a bit of shame wandering through his voice. How? Naruto would react. What? What do you mean? By sealed, I am the Kyuubi? He asked, now realizing what all the names the villagers called him by meant. No, you are neither a monster nor the Kyuubi. You are my son, and by sealed I mean that the Kyuubi is trapped in your gut, behind these bars. Kyuubi, come forward now, Minato would say. Suddenly, behind the bars of the empty cage, Naruto saw two glowing red eyes with black vertical slits. As the eyes approached to the doors, he noticed the form of a fox, with tail swinging wildly in his back. There it stood, behind the doors, the most powerful being in the world, the most powerful being of the 9 Biju, the Kyuubi no Yoko, or in other words, the 9-tailed demon fox. Naruto, seeing this, jumped back, scared to see a monster, or the monster, that attacked the village and was responsible for many deaths. No need to fear me, kid, the Kyuubi said, watching the poor kid. He knew too well what the villagers did to him. Naruto, Minato said, getting Naruto's attention. This is the Kyuubi, and he's not the demon everyone thinks he is. The attack 5 years ago was not his fault, Minato said, and started explaining what happened in the fateful night. 5 years ago, or in other words, when Naruto was born. The masked man unleashed the Kyuubi, and controlling it, he attacked the village, which led to me sealing him into you. Naruto was still frozen, absorbing what happened, everything his father was saying. Naruto didn't know what to say. It was just too much. Naruto, Minato continued, I'm sorry that I had to seal that Kyuubi into you. You had a harsh life until now, but I trust with this it will be slightly better, Minato said and touched Naruto. What are you doing? Naruto asked, worried that his father opened the cage and let the Kyuubi out. Naruto, I told you that I wasn't the Kyuubi's. Well, I told you that wasn't the Kyuubi's fault. That night, the Kyuubi will help you grow up, and it'll be at your side to help you in your battles and provide advice. The only thing I ask of you is when you're close to your death, that you release the Kyuubi. He didn't deserve to be trapped in a cage to be used as a weapon, Minato said. Will you really be my friend? Naruto asked, still a bit fearful of the fox. Of course I will take care of you and make you strong, so you can protect your home and, in the future, friends, the Kyuubi replied, and what happened next surprised everyone in the mindscape. Naruto suddenly left his father's side and jumped into the paw of the Kyuubi. So soft and warm, he said. Chuckles from both the Kyuubi and Minato. Now, Naruto, there is more than I need to tell you. I don't know if you realized it, but doesn't your vision seem different? Minato asked. Actually, it's all black and white, with you being blue and Kyuubi red, Naruto replied. Naruto, do you know who Uchiha Madara is? Minato asked, getting a disgusting growl from the Kyuubi. Or rather, I should say disgusted, clearly showing no love to the Uchiha leader. Yup, I know he was one of the founders of the Leaf and the leader of the Uchiha clan. That is supposed to be one of the strongest in the world, Naruto said, surprising his father. Naruto, even though he was 5 years old, was very smart and did like to read, but going into the library was impossible, as he was always expelled. Exactly. But what you and everyone doesn't know is that Madara was in fact my father. I never said anything to anyone because I decided to keep it a secret, he said. Naruto's eyes widened when he discovered that the legendary Uchiha Madara was actually his grandfather. I am the son of the Yondaime Hokage, Konoha's Yellow Flash, and the great Uchiha Madara? Hey, there is no way I'm not becoming Hokage, Naruto thought. With you being my Tusan, or in other words, father, and Madara being my Oji-san, or in other words, grandfather, there is no way I'm not becoming Hokage. Believe it! Naruto yelled, pumping his fist to the air and getting a smile from Minato. I have no doubt that you will, Naruto, Minato said, ruffling Naruto's hair. Now you know that the Uchiha clan have a bloodline, more specifically a dojutsu, right? Naruto nodded. This bloodline is called the Sharingan, right? Yes, and you activated its first level. Look at the floor. Naruto looked down and saw his reflection in the water. His eyes were blood red with a black tomoe in each eye. The Sharingan will evolve until it's fully matured, getting 3 tomoes in each eye. Minato concluded he didn't want to go any further into the Mangekyo. His time was ending and the Kyuubi could explain it, if he ever unlocked it. God, I hope he never has to go through that, Minato thought. Oh, I knew I was awesome, Naruto said, happy about knowing everything about his family and finding he had a bloodline. Now, Naruto, pay attention to what I'm gonna say. Minato started. I know that you always wanted a family, but you can't go to the Uchiha clan. Besides, having the Kyuubi on you, which, if they find out that you are an Uchiha, they will use it for their own gain. I want you to be a good person and not an arrogant, power-hungry person like the Uchihas are. Never rely too much on that Sharingan of yours. Remember that the Sharingan is only a tool. Having it does not make you all powerful, okay? Minato asked, getting a nod. Okay, my time is ending. Everything I have, including my clan's techniques and weapons, are in the Namikaze compound, and only you can enter, since there's a blood seal around it. Be careful so that no one finds out. I have many enemies, as did Madara. If you ever wish to reveal your true heritage, I ask you to reveal it when you are strong enough to protect yourself and anyone you care about. There are people that would stop at nothing to kill you or your friends to get revenge at me, Minato said with a bit of regret. After all, during the Third Shinobi War, he was responsible for slaughtering Iwa's forces. Or in other words, Iwagakure. Do you know how to use chakra to deactivate your eyes? He asked, getting a nod from Naruto. I'm fading my chakra. It's almost over. Remember, Naruto, me and your mother loved you very much, and I'm sorry that you had to live this life, growing up without love, Minato said, sadly. However, everything turned out All right. He asked the Sand Dame so that the village saw Naruto as their hero, but he was too naive. Don't worry, Tucson. I got to meet you after all, didn't I? You did what you needed to protect our home, Naruto said, getting a smile from Minato as he started to fade away, until he was no longer standing in front of him. Naruto woke up in the alleyway, wondering if it was a dream, until he heard a voice in his head. No, kid, it wasn't a dream. I'm here after all. You should deactivate your eyes for now and start training. I will help you in every way I can when you are old enough. I will train you to use my powers, the Kyuubi said. Thank you. At least I have you with me. I could use the company, Naruto replied, happy with everything that had happened. Who knew that this night would turn out to be his best birthday? You don't need to speak out loud, or people will think you are crazy. Just think and I will hear it. Also, now that the cage is open, you gained my second ability. You are able to sense people who are around you, and in time with training, you will be able to sense their feelings as well. You should tell the Hokage what happened. He will help you, but keep him in the dark about my help for now, the Kyuubi said, getting a nod from Naruto as he got up, deactivated his Sharingan, and started to make his way to the Hokage Tower. 15 minutes later, Hokage Tower. Naruto made his way into the Hokage office after arguing with the secretary and threatening her to tell the Hokage that she called him a demon. The reason Naruto never found out about the Kyuubi is that apparently the Hokage placed an S-rank law that prohibited anyone from telling him he had the Kyuubi in him, and anyone who broke it was subjected to immediate execution. Old man, Naruto said, earning a smile from the Hokage. Happy to see you, Naruto, and getting a break from the Hokage's #1 enemy, paperwork. I wanted to ask you if you could tell me who my parents are, Naruto asked, messing up with the Hokage a bit before he told him what happened. I wonder how he would react. He thought. I already told you, Naruto. I'm sorry, but I don't know you, error in the writing, who your parents are. All I know is that they are heroes that died fighting the Kyuubi. The Hokage replied. He couldn't tell Naruto who his parents are. He was far too young. Gigi, before I tell you what I came here for, can you tell your Anbu to leave? I only want to tell you this, Naruto said, getting a surprised face from the Hokage. How do you know that there are Anbu in the room? He asked, to which Naruto replied, saying, I can sense them above the ceiling. Naruto replied. Very well, the Hokage said, and with a flick of his hand, he signaled his 4 Anbu bodyguards to leave the room. Now, Naruto, what do you want to tell me? He asked. Gigi, are you sure you sent them all away? I can still sense another person there, Naruto said, pointing behind that bookcase. Once Naruto said that, the 4 Anbu quickly returned and dashed towards the intruder and quickly immobilized it. The intruder had Anbu gear, black pants, and a steel plate in the chest for protection, but his mask was completely white with a kanji for root. Damn that Donzo, sticking his nose where he shouldn't, Hokage thought. Naruto, you are indeed a skilled sensor. You caught an intruder that was in here, Hokage said. Oh, I knew that. I was awesome, Naruto replied, getting a chuckle from the old Hokage. After the room was empty, Naruto approached the pictures of the previous Hokages, and he stopped in front of the picture of the 4th. Turning to the Hokage, he said, Anything you want to tell me? The Hokage paled when Naruto asked him. How did you find out? The Hokage asked, wondering how Naruto found out. Very few people knew that Minato was his father. Now that I think about it, I could almost be his twin. I wonder how I never noticed. Actually, I wonder how anyone never noticed, Naruto said and started explaining everything that happened, leaving the Kyuubi helping him behind. He being Madara's grandson and him having the Sharingan. Minato really was a genius to think even dead he gives me a headache, the Hokage thought. Now that you know, what are you gonna do? You know you can't tell anyone, the Hokage asked. I'm going to train to become strong like my father was, and then I'm going to take that hat of yours. Naruto replied, getting a chuckle from the old Hokage, to which he said, "I have no doubt that you will." With that being said, this is now Chapter 4 of Naruto Legacy. And I, won't be reading any more of this chapter. So, next part we will begin on Chapter 4. I hope you all had an amazing day. And with that being said, Rami X. Oh,